brief review. So the work that we do, our jobs, depends on our ability to communicate with other people. And when those communications work really well, things go pretty well for us. And when the communications don't work well for us, we have some kind of problem. Things don't go as well, we get stressed, we get resentful, things don't get done, a whole bunch of stuff doesn't work for us. And what we're proposing is that how well we use 4 different conversations can impact all that. And that when we talk with people, when we say, well, I'm going to go talk to Becky, or I'm going to talk to Steve, or I'm going to talk to Emily, we don't much consider, we just talk like we're going to talk, like talk is talk. And we're proposing that there are actually different ways to think about the talk that you're going to have. And so, and you're already doing this. If we really were to follow you around and to tape record you, and then to look at what you were talking about, you would begin to identify that, oh, I am doing some of that, but I'm not doing some of the rest of it. So these conversations are not foreign to you in your day-to-day use. They might be foreign to you in your experience of having talked to them before. And we're proposing that there are 4. And the initiative conversations are the things that we use to propose ideas, to get new projects going, to launch something new. For example, my daughter called me the other day and said that she had proposed that the meetings that the staff uses has agenda at it. There's an initiative conversation. She was committed to having agendas at the meetings, and she brought up the idea, would you all be interested in this? Is this something we could do? And so that's an initiative conversation. Understanding conversations are the conversations where we begin to formulate how we're going to do stuff. Who's going to do what? Where are they going to get the resources? When are things going to be done? How is it going to occur? That's also where we explain things. This session is a conversation for understanding, where we're going to explore, we're going to ask questions, we're going to come to understand, or we're going to come to not understand. But the intent is that something get created. So for example, with the agenda issue, people started talking about, well, how would that agenda work, and who's going to prepare the agenda, and where are we going to get the items for the agenda, and you know, what's going to be the timing of it. So they exploring, is this something we really want to do? Then the conversations after that, not necessarily after that like linearly, but another set of conversations we engage in are performance conversations. These are conversations where we're specifically asking somebody to take an action or to produce a result, or where we're specifically promising to take an action or to produce a result. These are the only conversations that are intended to produce action. People may take action as a result of other things, but that's at their own initiative. Performance conversations are the only ones that are specifically intended to have people do anything. And they're really the only thing that gets anything done in an organization with any kind of consistency or reliability. And we've looked at those at the first. We're going to look at performance today. And then the 4th conversation is closure conversations. Probably the least used and the single most powerful conversation you can have with another human being is if you really engage in closure, where, as we'll talk about, where you're actually acknowledging things, including people, you're appreciating people, you're apologizing for mistakes, and you're addressing broken agreements. They're extremely powerful. They can be used in a variety of settings at almost any time to produce really a dramatic kind of setup for a conversation. So that's kind of the overview. Performance conversations is really a conversation for having somebody perform. It's intended to be a conversation for people taking an action to fulfill on something that you want fulfilled on. So if I'm making a request of you, there's something I really do want, and I want that request fulfilled. So it's a conversation that I'm having with that person for that request being fulfilled. And that's the reason we're having the conversation, is I want to be sure that you're in a position to fulfill my request. So when it's not just, it looks as if a performance conversation is just make a request. You know, Latoya, will you do this for me by the end of the week? Oh, sure. Well, that looks like a performance conversation. And it is. But there's no, you don't necessarily leave that clear or convinced that the person's actually going to do what they said they were going to do, or that they're really available to do what they said they were do, or that they have everything necessary to do what they say. We kind of rely on that that's going to happen. And a performance conversation, if it's really complete, you leave the conversation really confident that that person knows what they agreed to, that they understand what's required to do that, and that they've agreed to do what you've asked. When all that's there, that's what we refer to as kind of a good promise or a good request. When all that's there, you have a very firm foundation for accountability and a firm agreement in place that you then can, when we deal with closure, you can deal with things.